introduce me. I am Josh Lida. I am an art attorney, and over the last 8 to 9 months, a lot of my practice has centered around NFTs, which has been dubbed by the Broward County Cultural Division the future of art. And quite frankly, I think at this point, it's pretty hard to deny that at some level, it's going to play a major role. So we thought it would be a good idea, and major thanks to Meredith, Phil, Madeline, the Broward County Cultural Division. I'm not personally aware of another governmental agency that has put on an event for NFTs. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but this is very, very early stuff. So it's some really cool things that we're going to try to get into. So very quickly, I'm going to do a short introduction in case anyone's unfamiliar with the basic technological aspects of it. And then Dan and I are going to get into a conversation, and we're going to allow our guru-in-chief to tell you some side of it from the curatorial and from the gallerist and from the technological standpoint as well. So, that being said, we have a little thing here, the history of NFTs. So, Bitcoin. We've all heard of Bitcoin, yes? Okay. So Bitcoin was about 2012, and around 2015, there were some rumblings of different uses of Bitcoin. Color coin is widely regarded as one of the first ones. But you fast forward a few years, crypto kitties. There were news stories all about that a few years ago, right? Okay, since then it's kind of exploded, right? So earlier this year, the artist Beeple sold an artwork, 5,000 compilation images of his 5,000 days of work for $70 million at, I think it was Sotheby's, not Christie's. Third highest auction for a living artist of all time. And it kind of shocked the art world and sent the NFT market into overdrive, right? And since then, it's just gone from strength to strength. OpenSea, the largest NFT marketplace, in August did like $2.5 billion in business. And there's only a few 100,000 people actually participating at this moment in time. That's about to change. Coinbase is going to make it easier for people to purchase NFTs going forward. So you can expect the numbers of people using them to increase exponentially as we go forward. So that's just a very basic history. What exactly is an NFT? First things first, blockchain. Again, Bitcoin is the best example. A lot of people consider it the first successful version of a blockchain technology. What's a blockchain? It's basically just a decentralized ledger. It's just a ledger. It documents transactions. I sent X to the other person, they sent me this. And it's immutable, which means it's almost impossible to hack or change or make anything fraudulent with it. So that's a blockchain. Decentralized means it's stored on computers across the planet. So if one system goes down, the other systems are safe. That's what makes it so secure. Blockchains are where NFTs live. And, oh, I'm so sorry. Smart contracts. Smart contracts are what power NFTs. They're essentially algorithms. They're not really technically legal contracts. It's just a technology to allow automatic use of something. So for example, a vending machine. If I put $1 into a vending machine and I enter a code, I get a food item or whatever, right? That's essentially a smart contract. If you input something, you get something back. The computer does it automatically. Why has this become a big deal within crypto, and why is it used in NFTs? You don't need intermediaries anymore. You don't have to use a bank to transfer money. You don't have to use a money services agreement, right, anything along those lines. So it's become very popular. And then finally, we have non-fungible tokens. What are they? Bitcoin is a fungible token. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, period. They're all the same. Non-fungible just means unique. So instead of one artwork equaling one artwork, each artwork, even if it's an edition, has a unique token ID, and you can distinguish one between the other. So they are just unique receipts, basically, of ownership of digital assets. Long story short, if you make digital art, you can sell an NFT and you can tell who owns the NFT forever on the blockchain. So that's the history of blockchains. Then we have characteristics for artists. So beyond the money aspects of it, and the possibility of monetizing your art practice, there's also interesting artistic avenues that you can take. There are NFTs that age. There are NFTs that you can interact with and will change with the season. The artist Daniel Arsham released a bunch of digital sculptures that the background of it actually switches with the date and time as it progresses. So there's another artist, I can't say his name together. Can't say his name here. we're being ordered. I can't say his name here, but he basically created a metaverse where you can view his artwork. So you can go to the website and maneuver it as well. So for artists, not only is there an economic aspect that you can do, but there's artistic avenues that are being explored day by day and changing. So it's very interesting from an artistic point of view. NFTs in action. So before I get to that, in addition to being an art lawyer, I am also an amateur artist, and I've participated in the community since about March. And I can tell you that I have sold a couple pieces, I haven't made a ton of money, but just to have the validation of putting a piece of art online, having someone on Twitter say, hey man, that's pretty cool, can I have it from you, was very validating for me as an amateur. And very validating for me. And what I've noticed personally is on Twitter, on Discord, you have this global community of artists rallying around Bitcoin, collectors, technologists, gallerists, working together to kind of push art forward and to change it. So part of what Dan does, and these images are from his company Blackdove that we're about to see, you can take these digital works and you can show them anywhere, right? So here's what they look like on screens in action. So you can have displays demonstrating the work in someone's home. Another residential one, maybe in a penthouse or businesses. So it creates movable art that's easy to store, art that you can make additions of and trade and exchange with other people, and that's really what we've seen thus far. So with that being said, Dan, how did you first get involved with the NFT space?
Oh, I thought you meant with this tonight.
Yeah, well, that too.
First question from me to them. How many creators here? Half, more or less. How many are making or have made an NFT? How many would like to make an NFT? So it's interesting. You don't have to go to school to learn how to make an NFT. There's so many of them out there. YouTube covers everything. Try it, fail, and eventually you're going to get your identity, your fingerprint. Strong endorser of that. How did I get involved? My folks, I was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, bought art, like 3 pieces a year, not a lot. So I grew up with that. I was in the service for 10 years. When I got back, I said, man, I did 6 combat tours, I didn't have any art. I'm going to start buying art. So bought paintings, bought sculptures, bought this. And then I always loved digital art for a couple reasons. It's dynamic, so I've got a screen that I can put piece 1, piece 2, piece 3. Unlike a painting, painting is hung, sculpture is hung, photo is hung. You can change it. But then huge crypto advocate, number 1, and huge NFT advocate. So Blackdove was started 6 years ago before NFTs. That's incredible. I don't know if it's incredible, but it's interesting. So huge advocate of digital art, big advocate of creators, big supporter of creators. I buy a lot of art. And if you want to talk about Blackdove and what we may be able to do together, come on up later on. But love digital art makers, and I firmly believe that your art needs to be shown. So I go into a gallery, I buy a painting, and the gallerist tells me, I'm going to keep this in the closet. What? I just paid for it. That's what your NFTs are doing. People are buying them, they're looking at them on the phone. That does a disservice to you creators. You need your pieces on screens. Not from an egocentric perspective. When your piece is on a screen, somebody's going to see it. Who is that creator? This is who she is. They follow you, they find you, they buy your work. You want your work sold. That's what Blackdove does.
Well, and that raises a really interesting point because digital art, for example, right? It's had a challenge traditionally if you go back 20, 30 years. How do you buy and display a digital work of art in the 1980s? So let's use that as an example. Have you seen an increase in purchases or maybe popularity of digital art versus what was there maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Absolutely. So I love Fort Lauderdale. Unfortunately, I live in Miami. Some very good friends of mine are huge art collectors. They've got 120 art videos. They don't show one. The reason they don't show them, you would know them if I mentioned their name, because the artists are too demanding. I want my video on a 1991 TV with a piece of AstroTurf and a can of Coke from 1974. Forget about it. So you make the collector do that. Meanwhile, the artist with the painting says, put it up. Don't do that. Do it in standard format, standard resolution, good version, and you will get your art shown. So it's fundamental. So again, if your art's not being shown, you got to make money. You want to make money to pay your bills, to save money, but your next priority is to get your work in people's eyes.
And just to build off what Dan is saying, to go back to the artistic points of view here, while there is a standard format for showing the digital pieces, there's also other ways you can do it. People are working on alternative reality, augmented reality technologies. Look at it on your phone, right? It projects via your camera. Art Basel likely is going to have a lot of installations that you're going to be seeing later on this year. So, as an artist, how would you recommend someone getting started in this space to maybe find their voice or find their ability, their collectors?
So my first recommendation is do it on the internet. Number one, do a Discord, do it Insta, do it Twitter, do one of those three things. You build your community, you sell your own art. Don't depend on anybody else. They don't know you, they don't have a bias for or against you, they have no idea about the value. Start building. So you mentioned people. Mike Winkleman is his name. Mike made his first NFTs available for $1. And then he ended up selling at Christie's for a hammer price of $69. Why did he sell them for $1? Because nobody was buying them, and he wanted collectors. Get collectors. Is it $1? Is it $1,000? You guys know how much money you need. Just get them in people's hands. But when somebody gets your piece, ask them a favor. Will you post this on your social media? My piece plain. That's how you start to sell.
Well, and to that point, he may have been selling them for $1 a pop back in the day, and a lot of artists do, but a lot of these platforms do offer resale royalty rights. So as you build your network and as you build your community, that piece that you sold for $1 a year ago may sell for $10,000 a year later, and it may still offer you some passive income down the road and allow you to grow your practice and build. Wouldn't you say that that's the case?
Very, very dangerous. So when an artist creates and makes an NFT and they look at their smart contract, she's going to say, I get a 10% royalty. Let's say you sell it on Nifty. Let's say it's then transacted on Super Rare. Well, that royalty payment disappears.
Right.
Gone.
Right.
So your 10% just disappeared.
So you're saying DYOR or crypto lingo, do your own research, right?
No, what I'm saying is so let's say you sell it on Nifty, first go round. Somebody buys it, he or she sells it, try to keep it on Nifty, because then your smart contract is valid.
I see.
And the provisions to your smart contract are valid. Once you cross marketplaces, you erase the board. You don't have anything.
And Nifty, that's Nifty Gateway?
Nifty is Nifty Gateway, but any of the marketplaces, including mine, Blackdove, will respect your initial smart contract. Right? It's in their language. So yeah, it carries over.
And something that comes up when people come and ask me about NFTs and getting involved is to this point. Oh, I heard I can make money, or I heard this, I heard that. You gotta kind of research it. Not every marketplace is created equal. Not every blockchain is the same. The royalties might not transfer over from one to the other. So it is something you can kind of jump into and have fun with, but you gotta kind of pay attention, don't you think, and make sure that you're building properly.
Yeah, you do, number one. And really take good care of your collectors. I don't care if they spent $10, I don't care if they spent $10,000. Focus on them, send them information, humanize the creator. Then you're going to get loyalty. Every collector can introduce you to 2 collectors. Those 2 collectors introduce you to 4. That's how you build your practice.
And this is not something that's new for artists as far as being in contact with your collectors. I mean, we have historical experiences of Pollock, right? When he was first getting exposed to the people that, Guggenheim and buying the artwork. It's always been important. But now, would you say the NFTs have made it easier to connect with your collector?
Interesting. Yes and no. So when your piece goes on a marketplace, the smart contract carries your wallet, your crypto wallet, but mine doesn't necessarily say Dan Mikesell, it can say something else. So it's easier in the sense that the smart contract is public information. It's harder in the sense that you can't call your marketplace and who bought my piece. Call tomorrow.
So it's pseudonymous, basically. So you're
I think it
interacting
is.
with people
I
who
think
you
it
might
is.
not ever know their real name. And yet they could buy 10, 20, 30 pieces from you.
Here's where it gets interesting. So if you look at the traditional art world, an artist, when she or he starts to hit it, they're represented by 1, 2, 3 galleries, whatever it is. Nowadays, the NFT artists have no loyalty to marketplaces. That's good news, because your marketplace isn't going to tell you what you can and can't do with whom you can and can't do it. So you can, via social media, sell your pieces, and nobody's going to get mad at you.
It's a wonderful thing. Just as a reminder, everybody, please write your questions down. As we get towards the end of this chat, we will be answering questions to that effect. So Dan, it sounds like basically NFTs are offering you avenues for artists. Where do you see this going maybe over the next year, 2 to 3 years?
So I know the art world relatively well. I know NFTs pretty well. I don't know the future. But to give you an opinion, I think NFT artists are going to start making physical art, and I think physical artists are going to start making NFTs. And I think NFTs right now, you said hundreds of thousands, it's not hundreds, it's like 20,000 people have NFTs. That's going to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple.
And we're seeing that soon, right? I mean, Coinbase is launching that wallet within the next few weeks.
Yep.
And maybe an example of the physical to digital, the artist Ferocious, who's an 18-year-old artist, just sold the physical sculpture recently over the weekend. They gained notoriety through NFTs.
Yeah, we showed with him, he showed on Blackdove at Christie's, but the beauty is you can sell an NFT, you can sell a photo, you can sell a drawing, you can sell a painting, you can sell a sculpture, you can sell anything you want. But when you're starting out, you're sort of going to have to do it on your own. Find someone on social media that you respect and reach out to him or her and ask questions. They'll help you.
And to that point, that's something I was referring to earlier. You know, Dan mentioned Discord, Twitter, Instagram. It's such a welcoming community. You can literally just get on there, follow people, find blog posts, find YouTube videos. They will help you. There's lingo on crypto Twitter. Every morning I get on there and I see my whole feed is just GM. Good morning. Because it's the same people every single day having conversations about art, having conversations about the market, where it's going, who's doing cool things. And it's really a beautiful thing. I mean, it's kind of what artists want to get into in the first place. They want to meet their collectors. They want to sell it to people who like their artwork, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So if you take care of your collectors, they'll take care of you. It's that simple. An interesting thing that I believe is extremely important, again, I've been collecting art for quite a while, NFTs for a much shorter period. I'm a firm believer in every artist in my collection, I have 2 of his or her pieces. If you're a creator, do that. Someone buys a piece of yours, say, hey, I'm trying to consolidate my NFTs. I'm trying to get every collector to have 2 pieces. You'll be amazed at the positive reaction you get from that.
And again, just to reiterate, I mean, beyond traditional one-of-one art projects, there are the 10,000 edition projects. You can team up with technology creators or developers, and if they have a cool idea for a community-based project, you can do the art for it. And it's really about getting out there, finding your space and finding your voice, and then trying to expand with it. As they say in crypto Twitter, we're early. I don't know how much longer we're going to be early, but you are still very, very early. There's not a lot of people in the space. There's not a lot of technologists or gallerists in the space. And yet you look at the auction houses, they've done an enormous amount of money in sales this year. They're ahead of the curve right now. And everyone else is starting to catch on. So again, I know we mentioned, any advice for people that are just getting started. What if they're like afraid? I don't know what to do. I don't know what marketplace to do. Is it as simple as just picking one and running with it?
So my question is, afraid of what? If you're afraid of staying the same, then stay the same. If you're afraid of failing, I can't help you out. If you're afraid of making a piece that in your opinion is not good, you're not God. You don't get to make that decision. I know art, I know what I like, I also know what I don't like. The fact that I don't like it doesn't mean it's bad art. It just means it's art I'm not going to buy. So don't make art for your market. You don't know your market yet. Once you know your market, then make some pieces in the market, make some different ones, make some even different ones, get started. And don't worry about perfection. There is no such thing as a perfect NFT. We had a client, you mentioned Daniel Arsham. Daniel's a real good friend. So one of the clients of Blackdove in Atlanta had a TV, had one of Blackdove's TVs, and he bought Arsham's NFT. Daniel released an edition of 1,000. They were $1,000 or $2,000. We put it on his screen, and it looked like a postage stamp. It was like, what did I buy? And I said, you bought what Arsham sold. What did he sell? He sold an Instagram image. So we took Daniel's file and broadened it, and I've got it on my phone, but it's on the TV now. So you want people watching, sharing, proud of your art. That's what you want. Don't worry about perfecting your art. You can do that over the years.
And if you have an idea, we were talking about SolarWit before we got up here. I mean, we don't know where this is going to go technologically speaking. It's hypothetically possible to buy an NFT and then the purchaser can print it out on a 3D printer. So they'll have a digital image and then they'll have a 3D printed image or the sculpture that they own. So if you have an idea that you think is far forward or fast forward thinking, you can pursue these ideas. The space is wide open right now. I mean, the sale of Beeple happened in March. Right, so it's $69 million, skyrocketed the thing, and we're just getting semi-major adoption now. So now is the time, if you are interested, put yourself out there, get out there, speak with people, do your research, talk to gallerists, talk to attorneys or CPAs, whatever questions you have, whatever information you need, there's no harm in trying. And as artists, at least for me, so again, I come from a point of view where I am an art attorney, so I have the business side of things, and I am also an artist myself. I was afraid of putting my art out there. I'm a little self-conscious about it. I do it as an amateur. It's very punk rock. It's very bright colors and not very fancy looking. But you know what? I have been in the community. I put it out there, and someone bought it, and it just made me feel great. And now I want to keep doing it. I don't want to stop. I want to keep making this artwork and putting it out there. And if no one buys it, you know, I'll just have to live with that. It is what it is, but at least I try. And so I think it's really a wonderful thing. As far as the basics are concerned, if you're worried about the cost as well, there's more than one blockchain, right? I mean, they're not all expensive.
No, I mean, Ether's expensive, gas fees are expensive. One thing I was going to say, creators, are any of you working with companies, selling them your art, loaning them your art? No reason you can't do that with an NFT. You find a bar, you find a restaurant you like, most of them have TVs. Sell them an NFT on a USB and put it on the screen. A patron is there, she's eating, she sees it, what the heck is this? This is an NFT I bought from this artist. She calls you, you get, but don't be myopically focused on individual traditional art collectors. Anybody can buy your piece. A bar, a gas station, who cares? Get it out there.
And without getting too legal, just to build off that point as far as the selling and the purchasing of it, when you make a piece of art and you sell it, you're only selling that piece of art. You still own the IP inherently. That's just basic copyright law. So that is a valuable item for you going forward. And think about it with NFTs. You don't, I mean, how hard is it to store an NFT? Put it on your phone, right?
Anywhere.
Anywhere. You can store it anywhere. How many artists have like a room just with canvases just hanging up, just chilling? Right. I mean, it takes up space, run out of space. You can scan those images. You can tie the physical images to the NFT. Sell them IP rights through the digital image. There's so many things you can do with it that people are experimenting with that you can go for it and try to do it. So with that being said, is there anything you think we missed on the basics of this before we get to questions?
No, again, talk to people who are a couple steps in front of you and learn from them. And then when somebody who's behind you asks you those questions, you help them. That's what it is. Build a community.
And make sure you say GM to them when you get on Twitter. And then do you have any questions? Or?
Let's go Q&A. Q&A? Yeah. So originally you guys all had a piece of paper and pens on your seats, but I think if you just want to raise your hand and shout it out. Yeah, I think that would probably be easier for this many of you.
Hello.
So hey, thank you guys for being here. First of all, it's fantastic and great crowd. It's nice to see this happening tonight. So I'm just learning about NFTs. I'm in an investment business, but never done anything with the arts. So when you're selling the NFTs, obviously people are purchasing the NFTs. What happens to the original piece of art? Like, can you resell the physical piece, or no? What happens to the physical piece?
I got a funny story.
Okay.
I had a lot of stories. But a friend of mine, New Yorker, big collector, was in a gallery, bought a painting. Let's just say it was $10,000. Next to it, they had the NFT on a screen. He was thinking about it. All of a sudden, the gallerist came and said, the NFT is sold. It was one of one. It was a unique piece. NFT sold for 20. The guy said, what just happened? They said, somebody thought the NFT was more valuable to them than the original painting. So yeah, you can. You can sell.
You can sell both, and you can.
No, more interesting than that. So you can sell the painting. Painting's more important, right? It's a unique piece. You can sell editions of the NFT.
But like, to follow up on that, so if someone were to sell a piece, maybe that buyer of the physical piece doesn't want it sold anywhere else on an NFT. I mean, how do you get around?
So
you're copying my thing.
yeah. So there, as an attorney, I'm going to give you an answer. If you've ever dealt with an attorney and someone asks the questions, they always say it depends, right? It's always fact specific. So the beautiful thing about NFTs is, again, the smart contracts are not technically legal contracts, but you can write certain terms and provisions, and if they're buying it, the logic right now is that they're accepting the terms and they're putting in the description of it. So if you're like, hey, I'm selling 10 editions of this digital NFT, there's a physical one of one. Just because you buy the NFT doesn't mean you buy the physical, that's a separate transaction. We don't know how that will play out in court because we don't have court cases as of yet for NFTs, and courts can do some pretty wacky things sometimes, but it's a contract. You can contract with it. In my experience in the community, it's best to just be upfront with them. So if your plan as an artist or an investor is to buy it and then keep reselling it, tell people that, so that they're not caught off guard.
So what if a person who's going to buy a physical piece of art doesn't really know about NFTs per se, and they might not know enough to ask the question, by the way, you're going to sell other copies of this on an NFT. Is there some kind of,
Again,
where's the onus lie?
That's why I think the onus is on the creator or the seller. Personally. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're buying something, you might want to do a little bit of research on it just to figure it out, especially in 2021. We do have the internet. It is a little bit easier to find the information, but it's on the seller to say, hey, look, here's my plan. Here's my vision for it. If you want in on it, great. If you're not cool with it, then there's other art out there, as Dan said. Just because someone likes the piece doesn't mean they're going to buy it. Oh, I don't want the physical. I don't want this version of it. I'll buy something else. It's a very personal.
So I buy your painting.
Yeah.
I have no right to be offered or to buy any derivative of that.
Okay.
You own the intellectual property.
Yes.
That's recodified in the courts. You own that. You, as an artist, borrow somebody's imagery. Let's say you're a graffiti artist, Shepard Fairey.
Okay.
Shepard took and reused, almost verbatim, somebody's photo of Obama. Shepard got sued. Shepard lost. So you own the IFB, you own the intellectual property. I'm not a lawyer. I know art law because I collect a lot of work. You can do a lot of things with it. But if you've got a person buying your painting, say, hey, there's an NFT. Do you want to buy it as well? How much is it? It's twice as much. Oh, no. Save that. You make money downstream.
Hi, so you had mentioned that IP is belongs to the original creator of the NFT.
Generally speaking, yes.
Because I know Bored Apes have done something completely different.
They have.
Giving IP and then people are making and attaching marketing materials to their things. When you say generally speaking, is it because people haven't defined it yet, or how do you?
So as an attorney, when there isn't a law in place just for NFTs specifically, right? The copyright law was written a long time ago. It's been updated a couple times. Most recently, really, when CDs became a thing, we got DMCA takedowns, all that kinds of stuff. You kind of take what you have and you try to apply it to the new stuff. So Bored Ape Yacht Club, I think they're based out of Miami, believe it or not. Yeah, and it's a crazy project. They made a ton of money. They're opening up like a Soho House type physical place in Miami with the profits that they've made. What they did is they had 10,000 generative apes that they gave the IP, they gave a license of the commercial rights to the purchaser of the art up to $100,000. Now, how that's going to play out 10, 15, 20 years from now when everyone's competing with their same artwork or with similar artwork for small business spaces, we don't know. But what I mean is, under the copyright law, if you make a piece of art, you own the IP. And when you sell the physical piece, all you're selling is the physical piece, not the actual rights. That's a separate agreement, or it's an assignment, or it's a license. And what Dan was suggesting a little bit earlier, not to put words in your mouth, is the IP, if you end up becoming a Murakami or a Cause or a Bored Ape Yacht Club, can be pretty valuable. So it can get a little complicated, and quite frankly, as a lawyer, all the IP giving away, it's very interesting. I love to see the experimentation, but as far as a practical application to the courts, it's really difficult to analyze how it's going to play out.
So in this example, you would say if you were going for a project at that scale and with that reach, you should define within the terms of the contract that this is giving away commercial.
Yeah, there's actually been issues as well. So like CryptoPunks is another major player, and there's a lot of confusion over what people can do with their punks. They think that they have IP rights, but it's not clearly exposed. In Bored Apes, they put in the terms and conditions of the website. So if you're doing a project like that, every project is different. Every legal challenge and ethical issue is different. But generally speaking, again, it goes back to the original question. It's better to be upfront about it and make it as clear as possible. So I know it's not fun to talk to lawyers. We're a little annoying. We talk a lot. But if you're going to do a project like that and you want to give away IP, then it's probably better to speak to somebody who can guide you along the process.
Just upfront,
Yeah.
Or another option could be, let's say you do an NFT and it's an addition of 10. 2 through 10 are standard solo users. 1 of 10 is a commercial license. You can sell that for more money, or you can save that for later. Your decision. Only in the traditional art world, let's say you did a photo, edition of 5, and then the artist has APs. They save the APs because typically they're worth more. You save the commercial license because potentially it's worth more. And if you ever want to sell it, you sell it.
So there's a lot you can do with it, and just speaking to people who have experience, you might have an idea they never thought of before. But when you say it, it'll spark an idea, like, oh, well, maybe we can try it like this. I mean, the Bored Ape thing was a experiment, and it's gone very well for them. But if someone came to me as a lawyer and said, we're going to give away our IP, I'm going to be like, are you sure? You know, but they did the experiment, and it's worked out really well. I think I saw a hand up here first, and then we'll get to you, sir. Yes.
So, we had Peter Thiel in town yesterday, and he talked about centralization and decentralization. So, like, in terms of NFTs, like, how's that going to play out? Like, for example, you're talking about, you know, your initial marketplace versus your secondary marketplace. Or secondary marketplace might not honor your original marketplace, which is great. That's decentralization. And we get something like async art, which a lot of artists in this room I know actually use. In their terms of services, you're not allowed to resell off that platform, otherwise you're not terms of service. So what's the actual, like, how do we create like a decentralized ethos on top of NFT art? Right now it seems to be very, very centralized.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my sense is it's developing so rapidly. There are thousands of marketplaces right now. There won't be thousands of marketplaces in 5 years. Again, so the thing up there said something about the future. I don't know the future. My sense is grab what you can today and learn about technology changes, crypto changes, gas fee changes, collector changes, usability changes, TV technology. Learn all about that. You can't think for a year now that you'll be prepared year 2, year 3, or 4. It's changing way too quickly. Ether's going to have major competitors in this space. So it's going to change. The smart contracts are going to be very different 2, 3 years from now than they are now.
So like General Provision actually hosted an NFT 101 here like 2 weeks ago, and there were no lawyers in the house. So the question that was unanswered, maybe you can answer that question from 2 weeks ago, was like, what's the governing law? Because like you're talking about the crypto laws is, you know, anonymous, but even beyond that, the marketplace buyers, they could be not outside the United States, they could be North Korea. So literally, if someone is doing something is not covered by U.S. copyright law, which is probably almost everything, what do you do then?
So again, it becomes very complicated because this is a hypothetical mind game, which lawyers do like to play, but we never know how a court's going to play it out. So you mentioned previously the decentralized versus centralized. OpenSea, a lot of people criticize it because it's essentially a centralized marketplace for decentralized goods. So if that goes down, a lot of people's NFTs are going to go down with it, right? But the practical aspect, async terms and conditions. Okay, don't sell it outside of our ecosystem. All well and good, most people will abide by that. Someone doesn't. They got to try to find that person, serve them for a lawsuit. They got to figure out a complaint, the laws that's going to function under it. Just like you're saying, what if that person's not American? So it's difficult to enforce it. As far as what is the governing law, you got state laws, you have federal laws, you have basically common laws, which is sort of the courts have acknowledged it. It's really difficult, and every situation is going to be placed. It's going to be very fact specific. It's like when someone says, "Oh, is this NFT project going to be a security?" It depends. You got to do the analysis, and your opinion may end up being different than a judge's opinion 5 years later. There's a lawsuit, Dapper Labs, who make Top Shots. They're basically video NBA collector cards. They're getting sued as a security. So that might be our first case where we have legal precedent from a court somewhere as to A, what they think an NFT is as far as the law is concerned, and B, whether or not they are securities. But it really is a specialized analysis for each situation, unfortunately. The only reason I say copyright law is likely to apply is if you live in America and you make a digital piece of art, it's still a piece of art. So likely copyright's going to apply to it. But you might get a court ruling where a judge says, you know what, I don't think it falls for whatever legalese reason it is. You just never know how it's going to play out.
Go ahead, please.
Can you repeat the questions? Because it's hard to hear the questions from here.
Sure.
We can hear you, but not the question.
Not a problem.
Hi, I had a question regarding the smart contract. You mentioned it a few times. Where does it come from? Who provides it? How do you find it? Do you know what contains if you want? How is it changeable?
Sure. So smart contracts, let's use Ethereum as an example. The major contract is 7211, ERC? Yeah, it's ERC 7211. So Ethereum is all blockchains, or most of them, are basically public and decentralized. Anyone can download it and run what's called a node. People can then write contracts on top of the base layer blockchain. So there are always developers who do it either for compensation via the blockchain, or just to help coming up with new smart contracts. So some are more static, some you can do more with, some you can edit and modify. There are companies that allow artists, I think it's called Manifold.xyz, they allow artists to kind of dictate their own personalized smart contracts to do what they want it to do. And again, we're very, very early in technology, so it is changing drastically. But as far as the basic, standard, run-of-the-mill ones, they're just taking the smart contracts that are utilized pretty frequently on Ethereum. On Tezos, it's an FA2 contract. So it just depends on the blockchain.
I have another question about auctioning a piece of digital art. You hold your own auction?
Can you hold your own auction? So I'll answer it with another question. Can you bring bidders to your own auction? Can you? Do you have the bidders to come and bid on it at levels you want? If you can, you can.
Isn't that
Right?
like the whole purpose of OpenSea? Right here. Where you can like bid on, that's like the whole purpose of it? It's like,
No,
it's like an auction.
Yes, anyone can start a bid, but what Dan is getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is basically, I see it all the time. They'll put a piece of work up and then it doesn't sell. So yes, you're manually running an auction, but no one bought it. So the question is, how do you develop it?
So I don't know how many people here own real estate, but do you want to sell your house by yourself, or do you want a realtor to help you sell it? If you know a lot of people and you have a very desirable asset, sell it on your own. I think it's hard to sell. That's my sense. And when you do an auction and it doesn't sell, that's public.
The other thing to remember with these blockchains, and then we'll get to the two questions in the back, is all of this information is accessible to anybody at any given time. It may be a little bit clunky for us non-tech people to utilize. It's all public information. Every transaction, every auction, every sale, it's all there in the blockchain. It's a ledger. Remember at the beginning we said it's a ledger of transactions and receipts of who owns what. It's all there forever. So if you do an auction and it doesn't sell, people are going to see that. And they might think to themselves, well, maybe I don't want to buy this piece. No one else bid on it. So it just kind of depends. And then in the back, yes, sir.
Hi there. I'm glad you mentioned Dapper Labs, the creator of NBA Top Shot. It's very interesting to me. In my own research, I've identified about 3 blockchains that have major NFT sales. There's Solana, Cardano, and Ethereum. If somebody's a new creator, they want to list their NFT, I could go on Ethereum. I'm competing with 10,000 other NFT projects. I could go on Cardano. I'm competing with baby animals with lightsabers. Or I don't know much about Solana. Top Shot made an off-chain service. They were big enough that they were able to say, okay, come to my NBA Top Shot chain. They have an inbuilt NBA audience that's willing to come to them. My question is for the new creators out there, I know it depends, what's your personal preference for Cardano, Solana, or Ethereum? Ethereum seems kind of flooded to me.
Personally, I go on Tezos. I like the Hickanunk platform. All these platforms, the thing is with blockchains is people do this because they believe in the project or they're going to get economic benefit out of it. So Hickanunk is a website that people tinker with, just in their free time to make it work. It doesn't work great, but it's very punk rock, it's very indie, it's just sort of my aesthetic, so that's the one that I like.
Do you
and
have
it's
shares
really
in
cheap.
Hickanunk?
There's no shares in Hickanunk.
Okay.
Do I own Tezos? I own a little bit of Tezos, but just really to
There we go,
transact.
the truth comes out.
Just to transact, that's the one I like. You asked me my opinion of what I like to use. It's really cheap to mint on there. So I'm not a big artist, I'm not famous, I'm not selling my work for a lot. I don't want to spend $300 to put my work up on Ethereum, like you said, and then have it sit there. I'd rather put it somewhere cheaper to get it out there and try to build it organically. That's just my personal preference.
So like gas costs for you would be a factor for where you would list?
For me personally, yes.
Okay.
If I have tons of money and I want to get it to the biggest audience, then maybe you go to Ethereum. But if you're just starting out, it's such a, I know I keep saying it depends, but it really is a personalized thing. None of us are in the same position. Dan and I are not in the same position. We're all in different places in our lives. We all have different goals, different art. We want different people to collect our artworks. So it's really personalized to you.
Thank you.
No problem. Yes, sir.
First and foremost, thank you for hosting an NFT conference.
Thank you, Broward County.
My name is Sean Kurtz, president of non-fungible Labs. I saw a lot of people raise their hands about who wants to make an NFT. Question about, how do you create smart contracts? This is something my company does. If any of you artists want to show your art or have ideas, we could, incubate projects, put them onto Cardano, Solana, Ethereum, and market them quite well. So just if you're interested, I have my own picture.
Do you have a question?
What's that?
Do you have a question?
What's up?
Okay.
So you want to
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm wondering, a lot of avant-garde artists that are very serious about the craft are currently getting deterred by, I guess you could probably convoke by probably crypto coins, bored apes, et cetera, et cetera. How do you incentivize these people to become a part of the NFT world?
So the question is, how do we incentivize avant-garde artists to get more involved in the NFT world? Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not going to ask what an avant-garde artist is, but I have my opinion. So let's call them art world validated artists. Let's just call them that.
Well, I mean, people that are really serious about their craft.
I get it. So don't worry if you're an author that you saw this book in the bookstore and that you wouldn't touch it, let alone read it. Nobody's going to force you to buy it. So my strong suggestion is don't worry. Number one, you're probably not a better person than them. Number two, their art may sell for more than yours. You have your practice, you have your skills, you have your ideals, stick with them. Yeah, Picasso said, great artists steal, mediocre artists borrow. Steal.
And to that point,
Steal. But again, make what you want,
What is this?
And don't get discouraged over that. Again, we put our Shams piece up. It was a postage stamp. Like what the heck did I buy? You bought something off of Instagram. That's what you bought. So the fact that the punks are making a piece like this that's 780 by 780, who cares? That was 3 years ago. You're more you're more advanced. You know what to do. Counsel your artists to make the best piece they can.
And to that point, you're seeing more and more every day expanded and more detailed artworks. It's not just punks. It's not just bored apes. Those are the projects in the news because they're making millions of dollars.
I just wonder why they're making millions as opposed to make brilliant art.
Why does well, that goes back to an opinion, right? So why does anything make any money?
Why are Jeff Koons' balloons worth $32 million? I don't know.
Why was a pickled shark worth $12 million?
Yeah.
To that point.
I don't worry about that kind of stuff. Again, I don't think it's sold for too much or too little. I mean, I'm not going to buy it. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. Okay, have your artists make the best work they can, sell it for as much as they can, continue to improve their practice.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I do have Joshua. I emailed you. My name's Ken Gruneisen, and I've got a background 30 years in the investment industry, okay, and I realize that there's this convergence happening with art and the financial services industry and NFTs, and I heard you talking to somebody about the SEC. I stayed out of crypto, I stayed out of NFTs, because the firm I'm licensed with said, you can't do any of this stuff or you're going to end up losing your license. So I dismissed it and said there's no practical application for it. It's just a bunch of speculation. It's a bunch of, okay, great. But now I'm starting to actually open up my mind to the whole idea, and I do have a question. I'm opening up my mind to the idea that there's actually a real practical application to this blockchain thing and this smart contract thing. And now I want to go out there, and I decided, great, I'm going to start creating NFTs. I like to make music, and I know that there's Kings of Leon and even Les Claypool from Primus selling NFTs. So I thought, okay, I'm going to open up my wallet and embed it in my browser for the first time, and I'm going to take the big leap, and I'm going to buy somebody's NFT, and then I'm going to start creating my own, and I'm all excited. But the thing is, it seems that obviously it takes crypto to make crypto, or it takes crypto to make NFT. And I'm new, and I don't know much about it, and I know there's lots of fraud and lots of ways I could mess up. And so I'm wanting to try to go out there and be smart about it. And you've mentioned Tezos and this other guy back here, I don't know, regardless, whether it's Ethereum or Cardano or whatever, I guess, help me understand if I'm getting it right. I want to make, people are making statues, you know, like these statues with the arms broken off, okay? And I think I can make statues too. But in order to make a statue, I need some plaster, I need some clay. And so I need to go out there and buy some Ethereum or Cardano or Polygon or I don't know what. I'm new, I don't know. And I can't be too concerned, honestly, help me if I'm right. I shouldn't be too concerned about the price of the Cardano or the Tezos and if it was $2 or $7, because the bottom line is I'm going to make myself a masterpiece that's fine art. It's a valuable song. This song might be worth a house on the Intracoastal, okay? But if I want to embed it into an NFT and sell it and actually make money off of it, how do I mint it? And how do I have to literally get into my bank account and put 10 grand into Ethereum in order to be able to make my song into NFT?
Well, it's kind of what we were talking about before,
Yeah.
right? Everyone's in a different position. So if you don't want to spend 10 grand, first of all, I don't think you have to spend 10 grand for one, but I guess it depends on the gas fees at the time. Gas fees are going lower and lower all the time as Ethereum goes towards a more efficient blockchain and how they, not to get too technical, so it's getting more efficient over time. If you didn't want to spend that crazy kind of money, you can do cheaper blockchains. Solana was mentioned earlier, Tezos was mentioned earlier. But the reason why you need to buy a little bit of it at least is because that is essentially the lubrication that allows the whole thing to work.
Right.
That's actually
It's like the clay.
So while it is a currency, well, that's a debate as well. But while there's value to it, right? There's tradable value to it, and while it does go up and down, it's essentially just a token that allows the ecosystem to work. So yes, to mint something, you need a little bit of Tezos or a little bit of Ethereum, and then you can put it up there. You need a little bit to get started.
Now, to piggyback off of what he said, when you say to put it up there, which platform do you recommend to put it up there on? Because I keep hearing OpenSea, but that's about the only one. Is there any more that you suggest, or is there any more out there?
So you can't pick your platform. A lot of them are filtered. They have to pick you, right? So super rare is up here. I'm not saying it's better, it's more exclusive. It's more exclusive, and you can't come, you can't come, you can't come, you can't come. So OpenSeas is open, right? You can put it there. Doesn't mean you're going to sell it. It just means they allow you to post it there. Nifty is, again, they filter it. So the first thing you want is to be able to put it up. And then look at a couple of the marketplaces, see who's selling art that resembles yours or that you respect. Go to them, I've got this piece, will you post it? What I said before, it's interesting, and it's a huge change from the current art world. You post with OpenSeas in October of 2021. In January of 2022, you might be on a different marketplace. It's not a tattoo. Don't worry about it. It's one post with one company.
And there's no issue with going between marketplaces?
Zero.
So we got time for one more question. These guys will be hanging out afterwards for a minute. So, but we did have an advanced question that came in through, well, whatever platform, doesn't really matter, I suppose, right? And that has to do with the environmental impacts of this whole conversation. So it's great to talk about the art, it's great to talk about the money, but there is a lot of talk about the amount of energy that it takes. So maybe we'll start with Dan and then over to Josh about your thoughts on the environmental impact of this conversation. And that's where we'll have to wrap it up. I'm going to do that afterwards.
So we'll be here after. Come on up. We're going to have group questions, one-on-one questions. I'm very pro-environment. This is a problem. Ton of energy consumption. The beauty is a lot of the people in the space are demanding that the energy consumption come down. It's getting more effective. It's going to get way more effective. Eventually, solutions are going to come in for low energy consumption. Next week? No. Next month? Yes. So if you want or are concerned with energy consumption, look at the marketplaces that consume less energy. Look at the crypto or the smart contract technology that consumes less energy. That's my advice. But it is a problem, no doubt.
Yeah, like Dan said, it's been considered a problem by a lot of people within the space as well. Not only are they trying to make Ethereum, that's the big one that everyone talks about as being like so energy demanding, and Bitcoin as well, but we're talking about NFTs. So Ethereum, they are making it more efficient. There are what's called a DAO, which would be a whole other presentation, but basically it's a group of people within the space trying to raise money to help the environment to offset the damage done. And then you have cleaner, quote unquote, cleaner blockchains as well that use less energy. So again, just do your own research, and if the energy thing is important to you, then you can certainly do one that uses less energy and is better for the environment.